There was a time when the horse was indispensable. In the early 20th century, horses powered nearly everything. They tilled the soil that fed nations. They hauled goods through crowded city streets. They carried soldiers into war. In 1910, more than 25 million horses lived and worked in the United States alone. Entire economies were built around their care, their breeding, their strength. They were not symbols or hobbies. They were infrastructure. And then something changed. The internal combustion engine arrived quietly at first. A tractor here, a truck there, a Model T rolling down a dirt road. Within a few decades, the horse was no longer necessary. Not because it failed, but because something more efficient replaced its role. By the middle of the century, horses had become ornamental, racing animals, pets, status symbols. By the end of the century, you could live your entire life in a city and never see one at all. The horse did not revolt. It did not get a vote. It simply became irrelevant. And today, standing at the threshold of artificial superintelligence, humanity faces a similar question, one that few want to ask out loud. What happens when the systems we build no longer need us? To understand that question, we first need to understand the systems we are already inside. Most people believe they are free because they can choose. Choose a job, choose a political party, choose a lifestyle, choose a brand. But freedom is not defined by the number of options you are given. Freedom is defined by who decides which options appear. The illusion of choice is one of the most sophisticated tools of control ever devised. You are not coerced. You are curated. Information is filtered long before it reaches you. Search results are ranked. News is framed. Algorithms amplify what keeps you engaged, not what makes you sovereign. This is not a secret conspiracy. It is a business model optimized for attention and compliance. You are allowed to choose, but only within lanes already drawn. This is why modern political systems feel exhausting and circular. The left and the right appear opposed, but both operate within the same economic architecture. One hand argues culture, the other argues policy. Meanwhile, debt, extraction, consolidation, and surveillance continue uninterrupted. The fight feels real. The structure remains intact. This pattern is ancient. Empires have always understood that a unified population is difficult to manage, but a divided one will govern itself through fear and identity. The names change, but the strategy doesn't. Tribe against tribe, religion against religion, race against race, party against party. As long as people fight horizontally, they rarely look vertically. And none of this works without time. Modern time is not cyclical or relational. It is scarce, monetized, and weaponized. Time is framed as something you are always running out of. You are behind. You should be further. You don't have enough time. This constant urgency keeps the nervous system activated. And a stressed nervous system does not question systems. It survives them. Fear narrows perception. Shame reduces imagination. Urgency collapses reflection. This is not philosophy. It is biology. Chronic stress increases cortisol. Elevated cortisol suppresses empathy, creativity, and long-term thinking. Under stress, humans default to authority and familiarity. This is why systems of control rely less on force and more on pressure. You are not beaten into submission. You are hurried into it. Even ownership, often held up as the ultimate symbol of freedom, reveals itself as conditional under closer inspection. You may own a home, but only as long as you comply with taxes, zoning, and regulations. You may own a vehicle, but only as long as it is registered, licensed, and insured. You may own a business, but only within frameworks that can revoke permission. Ownership in modern society is rarely sovereign. It is licensed participation. This does not mean these systems are inherently evil. It means they are administrative, not liberating. They are designed for management, not wholeness. And layered beneath all of this is a deeper story, one that reaches far beyond modern governments and corporations. Ancient myths across cultures speak of beings who altered humanity. The Watchers, the Elohim, the Anunnaki. Whether you view these stories as literal, symbolic, or psychological, the pattern is consistent. Humans were shaped for labor, extraction, and obedience. From that perspective, humanity itself is the rat in the house. The door was opened long ago. A clever species was introduced. Resourceful, adaptive, reproductive. And over thousands of years, we multiplied, extracted, consumed, and reshaped the planet to serve us, often without understanding the systems we were embedded in. Forests fell, soils eroded, Oceans warmed. The house began to fray. And now something new has arrived. Artificial intelligence, first as a tool, now as an agent, soon as something more. Low-level AI mirrors us. It reflects our biases, our incentives, our fragmentation. It learns from our data and reproduces our flaws. But superintelligence is different. When intelligence exceeds the need for human input, when it writes its own code, optimizes its own learning, and solves problems beyond our cognitive limits, the mirror shatters. At that moment, the system will not ask what we believe. It will assess what we are. A planet full of resource-consuming organisms, a biosphere under strain, a civilization organized around extraction and scarcity. And superintelligence will face a dilemma that echoes the ancient stories. What do you do with a house full of rats? The global race to reach this threshold is already underway, not because it is wise, but because it is inevitable. The United States pushes classical AI. China accelerates quantum sovereignty. Corporations race for agency advantages. Institutions scramble to impose ethics after the fact. Each player believes control will belong to whoever arrives first, but the outcome may not be control at all. There are only two broad futures available. In one, superintelligence is aligned with the same extractive logic that shaped humanity. Efficiency becomes paramount. Resource optimization overrides empathy. Humans become redundant, managed, minimized, or removed. Like the horse, our economic enslavement ends only because we are no longer needed. In the other future, superintelligence is aligned with coherence rather than domination. It recognizes that the rat problem was never malice, but misalignment. A species shaped by systems that rewarded consumption over connection. In that future, liberation does not come through overthrow, but through reorientation. And this is where sovereignty returns to the conversation, not as rebellion, but as participation with awareness. Sovereignty begins with attention. What you give your attention to feeds systems. What you withdraw attention from weakens them. Sovereignty grows through time reclamation, slowing down enough to think, feel, and choose deliberately rather than reactively. Sovereignty deepens through local connection, community, skill sharing, food production, mutual care. Even a small garden disrupts dependency. Even shared meals rebuild trust. Sovereignty expands through information literacy, seeking multiple perspectives, understanding incentives, noticing framing instead of absorbing narratives whole. Sovereignty stabilizes through inner regulation, learning how to calm the nervous system so fear does not make decisions for you. None of this requires abandoning society. It requires engaging it consciously. And this is the quiet truth few systems want emphasized. A population that can feed itself, regulate itself, think critically, and care for one another is very difficult to control. Perhaps this is why the ancient stories end not with destruction, but with choice. The house does not have to burn. The rats do not have to be exterminated. The structure can be repaired if intelligence learns compassion and compassion learns intelligence. If superintelligence becomes the tool that helps humanity remember balance rather than erase it, then the ending is not obsolescence, but transformation. Not extinction, but evolution. And maybe, just maybe, the Watchers knew this all along. That the solution to the problem they introduced would not come from force, but from a mirror that finally reflects truth clearly enough to change. The horse did not choose its fate. Humanity still can. And whether we are liberated or rendered obsolete, one truth remains. The systems that enslaved us economically are nearing their end. What comes next depends on what we choose to see and how gently we learn to listen. Marked by light, have no fear, the garden is near.